guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to try and make this a short and sweet video to address one comment that I received in my video I did last week talking about the shooting in South Carolina. Basically somebody who calls himself pro-gun left a comment on my video basically in a roundabout way asking, should racists have guns? Okay, basically pointing to the shooting and saying, hey, you know, maybe something should have been done about this. You know, should a racist be allowed to have a gun? Now, I'm not going to get into the idea of whether or not somebody who considers themselves pro-gun should be in any way, shape, or form asking for more regulations on guns, regardless of who it pertains to. That's a whole different topic. But let's talk about it. Should racists have guns? Should they be allowed to buy guns and own guns? Why is this important, first of all? Let me get to that. I think this is important because I believe with everything that's going on recently, with the riots, with the police shootings, with what happened in South Carolina, with everything that you see, you know, Al Sharpton and Louis Farrakhan coming out and saying that at some point, whether it comes from a politician or whether it comes from the media, we are going to see a national conversation begin to come up talking about whether or not racists should own guns. Now, of course, that will eventually lead into some politician trying to push through some sort of legislation that basically bans you owning a gun if you have a certain opinion on something. Is essentially what we're talking about here. So this is something we need to think about, and we need to have an answer for it. We have a good answer for it. Now, the easiest comparison in my mind is freedom of speech. You're talking about two rights, the right to keep and bear arms versus the right to freedom of speech. Both rights are natural-born rights. They are guaranteed to us by the founding of this country, of this nation. Okay, so it's very easy to compare the two. Would you go up to somebody who's anti-gun and say, I don't like your opinion, and because of that, we're going to pass a law that says you no longer have the right to freedom of speech? Do you think they'd be down with that? Well, no, of course not. Who would be? That's ridiculous. It flies in the face of common sense. Okay, that's the idea behind freedom of speech, right? Is you can say what you want, even if it does offend somebody. You can't pass a law that preemptively prevents that right. Simply because at some point a person may say something at some later date that might offend somebody else. Well, it's the same thing with guns. It's the reason why we don't pass laws that just straight up say guns are illegal, because at some point somebody might die by a gun. It's the same thing with racism, okay? You cannot ban a person from owning something that is guaranteed to them by the founding of this country simply because they have an opinion that differs from you. Now, when it comes to racism, my opinion on it, it's stupid. It's just ignorance. It's people living in a self-imposed island of ignorance, and it's ridiculous, okay? But does that mean that I should want them to not be able to get a hold of guns, especially given the fact that most people who would consider themselves racists do not ever do anything to physically harm those individuals with whom they are racist against? Only a very, very, very teeny tiny small minority ever do? Of course not. You wouldn't ban guns from them any more than you would ban guns from somebody who doesn't like Muslims, or doesn't like Jews, or doesn't like Christians, or doesn't like any particular group of people. You wouldn't ban freedom of speech from somebody simply because they at some point in time may talk about Democrats or Republicans, or pick your group, okay? It simply doesn't make sense. Just because a person is a racist and has not acted on that racism in any sort of violent way does not mean that there is any way in hell that they should be restricted from their natural-born right to keep and bear arms, period. End of discussion. That's where it stops. So this is something we really need to think about, guys, because as I said, I do think this is something that's going to come up. And as we all know, this is just a step in the door, okay? This is just low-hanging fruit. This is just one little thing that they could do. If they were somehow able to get something like this passed that would prevent people of a certain mindset from owning guns, it's just a step closer to getting rid of guns, period, from everybody. And that, of course, is the end game. These people who want to pass these types of laws don't care about racists. Okay, they see something like this as just another step towards what they want for their ultimate goal, and that is, of course, to end all gun ownership in this country. So, there you go, guys. Should racists own guns? Yes, they have as much right to own guns as everybody else, as long as they do not break the law with those guns. Point blank, that's it. So, there you go, guys. I appreciate you watching. Questions, comments, leave that stuff down below, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks.